5-Year Mission, the podcast. Episode 2.5.
This week's episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast, is brought to you by Fansets, the place for amazing pin collectibles. See all the pins and collectibles they have to offer at fansets.com, and stay tuned for this week's special 5-Year Mission, the podcast discount code. Fansets, we are Star Trek. Welcome to a special supplemental kind of sort of episode. We're going to call it episode 2.5. Does that work for you?
Sure.
Yeah. Episode 2.5 of 5-Year Mission, the podcast. I know we're still pretty new at this, a little early on to do a supplemental, but we figured that this was kind of a special circumstance. I am Andy Fark, one of your co-hosts. We got to remember to introduce myself from now on. Laughing at me over there is Mr. Mike Rittenhouse.
Hello.
That was sultry.
Hi.
There, that's a little better. And he's popping our cherry here. Our very first guest. You may know him from the world of Twitter. You may know him from knowing way too much about Star Trek. You may know him from the TrekRanks Podcast over on the Tricorder Transmission network of Star Trek podcasts. It is Mr. Jim Moorhouse. How you doing, Jim?
Hey, I'm doing good. Did you really have to frame it like that?
Okay. Well, okay. I forgot one then.
Yeah.
Also,
wait, what else did you forget?
5-Year Mission Superfan.
Oh, that is true.
That's very true.
I stalked you guys to let you know how awesome your music is. But yes, I'm here. Enterprise Extra, TrekRanks. Looking forward to talking with you guys about Star Trek.
Well, that's why we brought you on, because, you know, we're new at this. You're a seasoned podcaster.
Yeah.
And
I'm a fake.
A fake.
Fake.
And you know, just in case we start getting some facts wrong or the conversation lulls, I know you're going to have some Star Trek facts to pull out of your butt.
That is exactly where they will come from.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. I mean, I've seen you compete in some Star Trek trivia out in Vegas, and it was a sight to behold.
It was pretty great. Our good buddy Adam Drozen beat me by like 2 points. It was awesome. Good times.
So, Jim, obviously Andy and I have been guests on TrekRanks, and we know all about it, but why don't you tell anybody listening who has not heard of it what it is?
I will definitely tell everybody. So TrekRanks is a podcast about all the reasons that we love Star Trek. And we use ranks as kind of our crutch just to have a fun conversation about Star Trek. So we pick all these out there topics. Some are not out there. Some are normal. Some are crazy. And we bring on some guests and we rank our top 5. But it's not really about the ranks. It's just about an excuse to talk about Star Trek. So no arguing, no nitpicking. We cover it all, TOS, all the way through to Discovery and the Kelvin timeline. And we love it all. Star Trek.
Especially the animated series, right?
And the animated series, Lower Decks, which is coming and looks awesome.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait for Lower Decks.
Since we're not on TrekRanks, I can speak more freely that I'm not a big fan of the animated series.
Well, we are well aware of this.
I think that's obvious on TrekRanks as well, Jim.
I try to talk around it a little bit because I don't want to get into all that. We try to be positive. We're always positive. All of our topics at TrekRanks are our favorites. We don't talk about our worst or the any kind of negative list.
The
That's what
least
we do.
favorites, yeah.
Yeah, there's a little too much. Listen, we can snark as good as anybody.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's a little too much snark out there in terms of all these podcasts where all they end up doing is talking about all the things that they didn't like or the nitpick. And I'm over it. So I just want to have a podcast that talks about the things that we like and appreciate.
Yeah, we are going to stay as far away from podcasters and vloggers like and things like that. So
yeah, it's way too much of that crap out there.
We are not going to go down that road.
And before this podcast ends, before you guys are done, you're gonna love Voyager. That's what's gonna happen. Okay, all right. Don't go there.
That's a tall order, Moorhouse.
Yeah, you and I are very similar, Jim. Whereas we love it all, from the good to the bad. Fark is not as forgiving.
No.
He'll come around on Voyager though.
He recently admitted to me that there are characters on Voyager that he really likes.
Yeah, characters. I didn't say episodes.
But we're not talking about Voyager today.
Nope. Tonight we are focusing on probably
someone who was in an episode of Voyager.
That's true.
Yeah.
Initiations.
That's right. He played a Kazon in that one. Mm-hmm. But tonight we are focusing with the recent sudden passing of Mr. Aron Eisenberg. We decided that it would be probably a fitting tribute to go back to one of my all-time favorite episodes of just Star Trek in general, probably in my top 5 of all-time Star Trek episodes.
Really?
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. So tonight we're going to be discussing It's Only a Paper Moon. I know it's a fan favorite. It's a pretty heavy episode. There's some lighthearted moments, of course, because, Vic Fontaine's involved. How can you not get lighthearted with Vic Fontaine involved? Unless it's Mirror Universe Vic Fontaine.
Who's human for some reason.
Right.
But we're not nitpicking.
We're not nitpicking here. Moorhouse already told us. We're going to try to adhere to the TrekRanks rules. So yeah, tonight we're going to discuss the episode It's Only a Paper Moon, Season 7, Episode 10. It is getting into the final run where the poop hits the fan. I wanted to say the other word, but I'm trying to keep Mike from having to edit too much. Where the poop really starts hitting the fan. And we're in the home stretch of Deep Space Nine.
Where the gawk hits the fan.
Yeah, there we go.
It's right in the middle where the crap hits the fan. It comes 2 episodes after the Siege of AR 558, which is like as heavy an episode of Star Trek ever.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That episode alone was just like the apocalypse now of like Star Trek.
Yes.
Pretty much.
It is. That's a really great analogy.
It's true.
But yeah, tonight It's Only a Paper Moon. Jim, where does that rank on TrekRanks? Do you know?
So yeah, I didn't mention that. We also have a website, TrekRanks.com, where I have ranked every episode of Star Trek before I had a podcast, just because I wanted to do it. I just wanted to put them out there somewhere. I also ranked 5-year mission songs, so those are there as well. But I haven't added year 4 yet. I've been really slow. I just can't do it.
Jeez, Jim.
There's too many good ones. It's too hard. All right, I'm off topic. But it's a 5-year mission, the podcast,
That's
so
true.
It's appropriate. It ranks on TrekRanks, on my DS9 ranks, number 66, which is actually really high. That's high. That's top 3rd.
That's true.
And when I break, there's so many good episodes of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'll say is my number 1 rank criteria, if you listen to my show, is always about the one that I want to rewatch the most. And that's not this episode because it's so heavy. I always kind of come down, if I can only watch one for the rest of my life, which one am I choosing is kind of my rank criteria. And I love this episode. It's perfect. It's beautiful. But I'm rarely going to be like, hey, let me watch that one.
Let me watch kind of a bummer episode.
Because it's tough.
So what episode of Deep Space Nine is number 1, Jim?
Number 1 is Past Tense, which is also a heavy episode.
Yeah.
Wait, I love it. It's so much because it's so
Past Tense
prescient.
part 1 or part 2?
Part 1 and 2. They're 1 and 2. And number 3 is, of course,
I love that we could see you on video, just like just beating yourself up right now.
It's funny because I always conflate these two titles. In the Pale Moonlight.
Okay.
No, it's not Come Along Home.
No, Move Along Home is a little bit lower. But yeah, it's anyway. It's number 66, but that's still a solid A in my book.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, it's an amazing episode.
If I were to rank all of the Deep Space Nine episodes, this episode would probably be in around the same place for me, I think.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's one of the reasons I did this, because I'm the kind of guy that when an episode came on, I'd be like, oh, this is top 5. My wife's like, you say that about every freaking episode.
Well, apparently for Andy, it is.
It is.
And I'm like, I kind of do. So I need to come up with a list. So I made my list, and then I made a website, and the rest is kind of what I do. So
yeah, what was great about this episode was last night I rewatched it for the first time in a while, and I knew it was going to be kind of a rough watch, with Aron passing and everything like that. But I watched it with my girlfriend and her roommate, who have only seen one single episode of DS9, and it was the very first episode. And with Discovery, they wanted to watch episode after episode after episode because they were way into it. With Deep Space Nine, they were like, they never brought it up again. And so I was like, all right, do you guys mind if I watch an episode of Deep Space Nine? Because I got to do a podcast tomorrow. This is like one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek in general. And they were like, yeah, sure. Okay. We'll do that. And they weren't too enthused by it. By the end, they were like, all right, where did you say that Deep Space Nine truly got good?
Yeah.
So now they want to go back through and just basically have me explain the first 2 seasons of Deep Space Nine so they can get into it. Just so they can get into the super really good episodes of Deep Space Nine.
Not to get off on a tangent, I just did, you guys were on we did the TOS Underrated. You guys were the guests on that show. Uh-huh. We just did DS9 Underrated. Mm-hmm. And I chose all of season 2 as my underrated because there's so many good episodes there. You can find a few in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, anyway.
For sure.
Off on a tangent. But yeah, I would start them in there. I mean, the trilogy at the beginning of that is incredible. So
that's the Circle, right?
Yeah, the Circle trilogy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's cool. So they loved it when they watched it.
Yeah. By the end, they were like, they just wanted more. And I was like, but now you got to think this isn't the original Dax, and this Cisco obviously has his head shaved and the goatee, and that's when he truly started kicking ass in the series in general.
All of the characters are fully developed at that point.
Yeah, like Nog has already joined Starfleet. Rom is
for a while. For like 3 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. And like Rom has left Quarks, and he's on his own career path. He's married to Lita. Cassidy Yates is in the mix.
A.K.A. Nog's Moogie. Lita, I mean, not Cassidy Yates.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this episode is hitting on all cylinders on that level in terms of the characters.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed in my rewatch, I always forget about this scene, and I made a note of it because it's going to be in a future episode of Trek Ranks, a topic we're looking at. But that moment where they're all trashing all of Bashir's holodeck programs.
Yeah.
He's just like, hey, sitting right here.
Not like that stupid Alamo program. Hey. Or that Viking program. Hey.
That is a confident show and character and writing. It's so good when they pull that off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this episode in particular, it was like basically the continuation of, is it the Siege of AR-558?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the very first part of it.
Which is only it's like 2 episodes before this, so it's basically almost a 2-parter.
Almost a 2-parter,
literally back to back. They have these. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so like Rom returns from Starfleet Medical, and obviously everyone's very happy to see him.
Nog, you mean?
Yeah, Nog. Did I say Rom?
You said Rom.
Man, I'm probably gonna do that a couple times. So yeah, Nog's returning, and the entire crew's there to greet him. They're super happy to see him, and obviously he gets off the shuttle just a broken man. and they were expecting like a happy homecoming and everything. That's kind of what they wanted, but they didn't know what they were getting as soon as he was getting off that shuttle.
Yeah, I'll say my first thought right at the beginning was during that scene, because you already know how emotional this episode already is.
Yeah.
And now, you're watching it realizing that, Aron Eisenberg is no longer with us. And I mean, it's really, really hard.
Yeah. Like immediately when he came on screen last night, when I was rewatching this, I started tearing up. My girlfriend noticed, and she just had held my hand.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, a guy that's so full of life, which I know we'll talk about. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is as the episode goes on, he basically chooses to just kind of hide himself away and just basically immerse himself in his depression. And I mean, I don't know how many people that are listening to this know about this, but I had a severe bout of depression like 2 years ago, year and a half, something like that.
It lasted for a while, but
Yeah.
a year and a half ago was definitely in the heart of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like especially going back and rewatching this episode, like I saw myself in Nog so much, just like basically just wanting to be alone. I had like a couple coping mechanisms where like if I didn't have it, like I couldn't function. And like if anybody tried to talk to me about my problems that wasn't like a counselor that I was going to specifically, I would just kind of shut down and just be like, I don't want to talk about this. I'm focusing on myself, and this is how I'm healing right now. And so it was just interesting to see like Star Trek tackling like mental health issues like that, especially back in the 90s. Right. It wasn't really like a big thing at the time where people would like openly talk about their feelings unless they were just some stupid new age hippie.
Or if they dealt with it, it was on a very different level than that episode. It would be like this episode represented from his point of view, like how it really is for people, in a way, whereas, a lot of shows, even Star Trek, would deal with people with mental health issues, and it would be like a problem to solve, like...
Right, exactly.
And it would be more about the crew trying to help this individual that we just met for the first time in this episode or something, not a character that we've known for 7 years.
Exactly, and we watched grow up
at
that. I mean, that was just ridiculous, like thinking back to like how we initially found Nog the first time when he was like helping somebody like rob stuff off the promenade. And then here he is, just this broken man coming back from recovering from a war wound and just going through like severe depression and PTSD.
And speaking of that, one of the things I was thinking about in the last couple of days about Nog is, and this is something I've always kind of felt about that character, is there are not very many characters in Star Trek who have grown and changed as much as he did. And I would say Deep Space Nine in general, like all of those characters really grew way more than any of the other shows. Yeah. And Nog especially, like you just said, he went from being a kid getting arrested to, being a hero.
Yeah, and just being like in Starfleet and on the verge of becoming a captain, basically. Like that was his career goal, like towards the end.
And it wasn't overnight either. Like it wasn't like, we saw him in a couple episodes and then suddenly he became like this major player. Like it was over the course of the series. He just grew into this, this much, another thing about Deep Space Nine is more than any of the other series, the supporting cast are very important to the story. And, characters like Nog and Rom and Dukat and Garrick, like they're as important as the main cast. And in some cases, Jake, they're like way more important than the main cast. And Nog especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we don't do on Trek Ranks. See, we don't denigrate Jake.
I love Jake Sisko. I think the character's great. But
I do. But I'm only joking. So a couple of things, because you're right. Obviously, Nog's development over the course of the 7 seasons is, I mean, not only is it one of the best, I mean, honestly, you can literally make an argument. It's the best character development of all Trek, all 50 some odd years.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, he's literally in the first 5 minutes of Deep Space Nine's pilot, Emissary, as a little thief on the promenade, a plot point. And what he went on to become through 7 seasons as a character that they started in that way, it's absolutely mind-blowing to me that this little throwaway moment at the beginning of Emissary resonates all the way through all 7 seasons. Absolutely amazing. And we did an episode, one of our first kind of out there topics was top 5, or not standard topics, was top 5 DS9 recurring characters. Mm-hmm. And all of our guests on that show obviously picked Nog in the top because. Oh, so there
were some crossover picks.
So, I mean, for sure. I mean, this guy, as a recurring character, he is unparalleled other than maybe Garrick.
Oh, Garrick, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and just think of what we could have had with season 8, like what we saw with in the What We Left Behind Deep Space Nine documentary.
God. Yeah. That stuff is, I've said it many times. One of my favorite part of that whole documentary was all the season 8 storytelling stuff.
Yeah.
And it was tragic that was the very first scene that we saw them storyboarding was Nog coming back.
Let's kill Nog.
Yeah, immediately.
Tragic, but also shows you the importance of Nog. That
exactly.
A guy like Ira Stephen Bear, he's never gonna take the easy way. He's always gonna give you the gut punch. And I love it because he has a moment during that season 8 thought process. He's like, "Hey, this is Deep Space Nine. What did you expect, man? Welcome back. We're killing Nog." So,
well, I loved. Well, Aron is fantastic all throughout that documentary, but his reaction to when they're going through that storyboard and they cut back to him in an interview form, he's like, "F you, Ira."
It was a joy. I mean, every moment he was on screen in that interview, he was so emotional, so emotive of how thankful he was for his opportunity and the character and everything it gave him.
Yeah.
Which anyone who interacted with the guy, whether at a convention or online or on social media, you knew that right away. But to see him doing that in this documentary and then having that freak out moment in jest was so just brilliant. It's so funny. It's easily my favorite moment in that documentary. He just storms out of his chair.
Yeah, didn't he throw the chair? Like knocked it over?
Anybody but Nog.
Right.
He knocked it over.
Yeah, you would have thought it would have been like the bigger, tougher characters, like Michael Dorn would have wound up doing something like that. Yeah. Nope. Leave it to Aron Eisenberg to be the tough guy and storm off set.
Yeah, but I'll say it again. The reason they killed Nog is because of how great Aron Eisenberg was and how great Nog was. That it's kind of counterintuitive in your mind, but that's he's that good. He's that powerful. So let's kill him because that's the way to make this,
because that will bring everyone back together.
Yeah, and then that's going to be like the emotional gut punch that people are going to come out of that. Like if they were to do like a season 8 and they were to open with something like that, that would grab people immediately. Like, oh my God, they killed off Nog first episode. Like within the first few minutes of the very first episode of this fictional season 8. And that's just
crazy.
Ridiculous and crazy.
Crazy. That was great. I was going to go back to your acknowledgement of kind of the theme of depression and the way they portrayed it in this episode. There's probably, there's a good handful of Trek episodes where they tackled that topic
Yeah.
Some are pretty good, like Extreme Risk and Voyager, and I think like actually earlier in this season, I think After Image is probably one that it's not necessarily depression, but mental health with Garrick and Esri, and that was a little more kind of cookie cutter, like it just fit into the episode and it was solved at the end.
Yeah.
The thing about this episode where I think it's the best one is because it's not an easy solution.
No.
And at the end they're like, "Hey, are you okay?" And he's like, and he literally says, "No, I'm not okay.
But I will be."
Yeah, I will be. I'm gonna get there. So, and knowing that he's gonna have to work at it.
That was the
perfection.
thing. That was the thing with it, with like my depression. Like it's amongst like my friend circle. It's a well-known thing that, you know, I suffered from depression. I'm in therapy still and everything, and like everyone will ask every now and then, like so how you doing, how you holding up, and blah blah blah. It's like, oh, I'm doing okay, and they're like, oh, do you need to talk about it? It's like, no, I already have somebody for that, but you know, I'm going to be okay. You know, eventually I will be okay. I mean, I still have my moments, obviously, and anybody that suffers from depression is obviously going to have it come back every now and then. But I mean, to have a character like Nog go through the things that he went through, especially like the road that he took to recovery once he got back on Deep Space Nine, I thought that was just a really good coping mechanism, and it just kind of helped him kind of get through all like the psychosomatic things, but then also learning how to cope with day-to-day life, like realizing, yeah, he's going to have his ups and downs, but eventually, you know, he's going to be able to deal with it, and life is going to go on. I think, what was the quote I wrote down from Vic Fontaine, which, I mean, Vic Fontaine, I want Vic Fontaine to be my therapist. Basically,
For sure.
because he did a fantastic job. He's a hologram, but still somehow he was able to reach Nog more than like a ship's counselor like Esri was able to do. Because his quote was, "You got to play the cards life deals you. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but at least you're in the game."
Ah, yeah, that's so good.
And that's just like one of those like Stuart Smalley kind of "you're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you" type daily affirmations that I kind of want to write on my mirror and like chapstick, just so when the mirror fogs up, like that's what I read every day.
It really is such a smart sentiment. It makes so much sense. I love it.
No, it absolutely does. What I truly loved is that, especially with Esri, because I mean, so many people were down on the character of Esri when she first premiered, because, you know, it's a new Dax, it's not Jadzia anymore, and everybody was kind of down on this brand new character. And I think especially looking back on and rewatching this episode, realizing how much respect I had for her, because she was initially really trying way too hard, and then just kind of reading that Nog didn't want to talk, and then once he got the idea to go and live in the holosuite with Vic, she was like, I don't know about this, blah blah blah, and then she came back and was like, nope, it's time for him to leave the holosuite. This is too much. Your family misses you. Your crew misses you. And this is not going to be good for you in the end. And then Vic kind of talks her out of it. And then obviously Nog talks her out of it too, using the same talking points as Vic. But she was just so hands off. She was like, okay, I see you're making progress. This is obviously helping. So I'm going to step back, let you do you, and let you keep going, because it's obviously you're making progress. I don't agree with it, but I'm going to let you keep going down this road.
Correct assessment.
I like Esri.
I mean, she's a great character. There's really no anyone that can't see that is not looking hard enough.
Actually, in several ways, I like Esri better than Jadzia.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
It's not that I dislike Jadzia.
Oh, no. Absolutely. We would fight if you said you dislike Jadzia.
I mean, probably the number one reason that I like Esri better than Jadzia is Nicole DeBoer.
She is cool. Well, they're both cool. Come on, I mean, You can't rank Oh wait, I did rank characters.
I was gonna say
all 42 of them on character ranks at TrekRanks.
Oh my god!
And I'm pretty sure Dax is in Jadzia is in my top 10, and I think Ezri's in the 20s. But I love Ezri. I love Ezri. and like you were saying about Vic Fontaine, Fark, as an analyst or
Therapist.
a therapist, oh my God, he would be the best in this whole episode. I always say this, and that's a broken record, but the fact that they introduced this character and he works so well at the end of season 6 of this jam-packed show with everything else, so much else going on.
Yeah.
And he worked so perfectly is nothing short of a miracle. That's Irish Stephen Bear, man, that he can pull off a character like this and make him so beloved.
What's hilarious to me is that there are so many people that are like that just completely dislike the character of Vic Fontaine, and also like holodeck episodes.
I like holodeck episodes.
Oh no, I do too.
I'm not a huge fan of Vic, but I don't hate him.
Interesting. I haven't met that many people that don't like him. Why? What's your? You got any issue there, Mike? What's
not really an issue. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't find the character that
compelling.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, like not even with this episode. Like, how he's like basically sentient.
This is probably his best episode.
Oh yeah, obviously.
And I mean the episode. What is it? Bada bing.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Is that
or bada boom, bada bing?
I mean that episode's fun. Bang,
that's right.
Yeah, that episode's fun, but
the heist episode.
But I mean, overall, I mean, the character's just he's not that interesting to me.
Well, I love him, and I think, but obviously in this episode it works so well with him. I mean, James Darren and Aron Eisenberg so good together.
What I was explaining to my girlfriend last night, I was like, yeah, James Darren, the guy playing Vic Fontaine, he still looks exactly the same.
He does.
Right.
Like he's like one of those guys that's basically been like in his like early 60s his whole life.
Right.
Like basically like a kind of like a Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Where he's just always looked old.
It's classic. And the fact that he was, right there with the Rat Pack, and this character's talking about Sammy and Frank and the whole bit. It's just, I always love that. Really smart. All right. Well, I was going to ask you guys, and beyond this episode, this is such a TrekRanks question, but what are your guys' favorite other Nog episodes?
Oh, good question. Obviously, the season. The Siege of AR-558.
Yeah.
That is just, because I mean, it obviously leads into It's Only a Paper Moon.
I love Little Green Men.
Oh, that's what I was about to say.
Yes.
So and again, a lot of people get down on Ferengi episodes and everything like that.
I love Ferengi episodes.
I love them. I mean,
we should probably count the Magnificent Ferengi also.
And of course, side note on Magnificent Ferengi, why it's one of my favorite episodes is because of the inclusion of Iggy Pop.
Yes, of course.
Because come on, how can you not like Iggy Pop on Star Trek? We're waiting.
So I know you'll have the answer to this for me, Jim. What's the episode with the stem bolts?
The self-sealing stem bolts.
Is that the No Jake Consortium with the Nagus?
The one where they're trading, where Nog and Jake are trading things, and they have the stem bolts.
Yeah, it's called the Nagus, I think. No. It's Progress. It's Progress.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. I like Nog in that episode also.
Yeah, he's really good. That's where they have the No J Consortium, and they end up with the stem bolts in the land.
Yep.
Sorry, I was thinking the Nagus because that's the amazing episode, which I was going to bring up. That amazing scene where Jake is teaching Nog to read when Cisco is kind of like not sure of Nog.
Yeah.
And he stumbles on them at the end, and Jake's out there just teaching him how to read. And again, you see Aron Eisenberg in that role. He's so good. The emotion that he conveys.
Well, again, that's like another thing with like Nog's character development. Like when he and Jake went on the double date, and he was just treating his date just like a Ferengi would. Chew my food, woman.
Right.
Don't speak unless you're spoken to. And then Jake's like, no. Be woke, Nog. Come on. This is like the year 2243 or whatever he was. And so and then he learns from that. So he's no longer like a sexist pig.
You mean like 23?
Yeah, I did.
23, what is it? 60 something?
63, 67 something. Yeah, something like that.
We got to get nerdy on you here.
Oh, God.
Corrections and redactions.
Good correction.
Oh, wait, because that's in the very first episode, isn't it? Because they have like the weird little Star Wars scroll in the first episode of Deep Space Nine, like the year is 20 blah 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 blah, and Jean-Luc Picard had just recently been assimilated by the Borg and all that stuff, and
yeah,
and then they show like the Battle of Wolf 359,
and it's a dark time for the Empire.
I just remembered you guys were on top 5 comedy episodes too, and we talked about Little Green Men and Magnificent Ferengi.
And Magnificent Ferengi. That was one of my choices.
Wait,
I was
gonna say, I was like, I don't remember.
Oh, Fark wasn't on that.
Yeah,
one?
No, that was just me.
Where was I, Moorhouse?
I don't know. Oh, you were on the Klingon episode, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Was it Klingons or just plain Worf episodes? No, it was Klingon. It was
Klingon.
Klingons.
We haven't done Worf yet.
So, do you have a TrekRanks episode that is top 5 Nog episodes?
No, but actually, a bunch of people reached out to me and were like, "Oh, you totally should do it," and they're right. So,
yeah,
I'm adding it to our fall schedule. We'll probably be doing it in the next few weeks and have it out in probably early November.
Well, we will gladly come on that episode.
Yeah, everybody wants to be on that one.
I might even listen to it.
Well, who's
don't do that.
Who's more important here, Moorhouse? And remember, we can see you right now.
You guys are?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll just take a copy of this tape and then I make a TrekRanks.
Oh,
it's not going to be any fun for anybody to listen to it again.
Well, you of course know you're going to have to pay us residuals for using clips from this episode, right?
Royalties.
This is why it's going to be a brand new episode.
So you've been to a lot of conventions, especially the Las Vegas convention, Jim.
I have many times.
So have you crossed paths with Aron?
So it's funny. I don't do a lot of interaction with the cast. I don't really get autographs or photo shoots or anything like that.
Which actually surprises me that you don't at least just like interact with them more.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen that naturally. It just doesn't happen a lot for me. It's just not a thing that I'm much more about the behind the scenes guys. So I will interact with like the Akutas and.
That's true because I remember seeing your STLV schedule of panels, and it would always be like producers and writers that you were really like geeked out about.
Yeah, it's funny. So
you've never just walked up and stood next to Scott Bakula and we're just like, hey, we were both on Enterprise.
Nope. I have done that to Anthony Montgomery because he was so cool on the set. He was just such a good guy, and I talked to him about that. The way he treated people was just really impressive. So. You can read about it on TrekRanks.com.
But back to Aron.
But back to Aron. So the only time I met him was when I was on a red carpet covering the Discovery Open for Trek Corps, and we just kind of it wasn't it was like 20 seconds of hey, hello, and hey, thanks for Nog and everything you gave to Trek. But other than that, there's not a lot. I didn't have interaction, but of course. Every year I always would watch his panels because him and Max Grodinchik are just hilarious, especially when they started dressing up as the characters. Just a lot of fun. I mean, just a lot of fun. and the energy they put into it.
What's hilarious is that Max, in his like kind of tribute post that he posted the other day, was like something like I'll never be able to chastise him for changing the lines in the scripts that I would write him for our skits that we would do at conventions, because you would hear in the middle, because like for anybody that hasn't seen, that wasn't able to see Max and Aron in full Ferengi makeup as Ram and Nog, they would get up and they would do skits together, and it would always be scripted. Max would write the script and he would hand it to Aron, and they would semi-rehearse beforehand. Right. But Aron would always change the lines, or if Max would pause for too long, Aron would go, and then Ram says, and just mess with him.
Yeah, that's right.
What's hilarious, because every single time that we played Vegas as the house band or as the VIP band for like the gold party or whatever, I would always make sure to be backstage. Like I would not sit and watch every single panel every day. But no matter what I was doing, I would stop what I was doing and go and watch the Ram and Nog panel, because I knew it would be hilarious and one of the highlights of the convention.
Yeah, same. And I'm so glad I've forgotten about that, but he did that religiously. Like, and then Ram says, because the bit was always that Aron was, even though Max wrote the stuff, Aron was more prepared, and Max was always just kind of figuring it out as he went. It was really, really funny and clever, and again, you get to see the emotion that and the appreciation these guys have for the characters and the fans.
Well, there's a video, I think Ira had posted it the other day, or maybe he just mentioned it. But there was a video of them at a convention backstage in Germany. I think Garrett Wong might have taken the video, and Aron kind of nudged whoever was holding the camera and was like, "All right, film this. This is what this is all about." And they were about to go on stage, full makeup and everything, and they're walking away and just holding hands as like father and son. And that just really broke my dark little heart.
Yeah. I will say, I was just going to add one thing about never really interacting with him and at his table or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I do regret it, because I would always see him tweeting about, I work in soccer, and I would see him tweeting about our teams a lot. He was a big fan, and I always thought, man, I need to go like give him my card and tell him I can get him tickets for any game.
Yeah,
and I always thought I would, but I never did, and that makes me sad now too.
You mentioned Max's post. Mm-hmm. Hearing the news about Aron was really heartbreaking, but then waiting to see what Max had to say and then reading it was just like a punch to the gut. Like I was actually dreading seeing his post, because I mean, you know how close they were.
Oh God, yeah. They really were like father and son. Yeah. I mean, he's seeing his post and just the old photos that he had posted, like basically once Aron had kids, and hell, once Max had his kid, like their kids started like growing up together, and they would like hang out at conventions and things like that. So basically, and plus, I mean, Aron was so young when Deep Space Nine started, and then Max was so much older, and they were playing, father and son. That like Aron grew up before his eyes, basically. Like Aron was what, 17, 18?
I think he was in his early 20s.
Was he early 20s when Deep Space Nine started?
Well, Deep Space Nine is 26 years old, and Aron was
50.
50. So
okay, so early 20s.
But Max still has a good 20 years on him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but it's got to be hard especially for that entire cast though. The entire cast of Deep Space Nine was so close, and you can tell in like their panel interactions and everything that they were all they were a family, and it broke my heart to see like Chase Masterson coming out and talking about that, because we were at a few conventions where Chase and Aron were both there at the same time. A few with Chase and Max.
I always think about Villains Con. Because it was such a small convention, but Chase and Aron were both there, and it was so unattended that we just kind of stood around and hung out with the two of them and talked to them the whole time, like specifically you and I.
Yeah, because you and I stayed the extra day. The rest of the band went back home, and we stayed and manned the booth. Yeah. After our shows.
And I that's one of my biggest memories of Aron was that convention, because we'd literally just hung out and talked to him and became friends with him.
Yeah, I talked to him about his son. He'd recently started taking up guitar, so we started talking about music, and like he was telling me about soccer. I was telling him about American football.
Yeah, that's cool.
But then my favorite part about that Villains Con thing, by the way, if anybody out there gets a call from a thing called Villains Con in Danville, Illinois, do not do Villains Con.
I don't think it exists anymore.
I don't think it does. I think they still run like a comic book store or something there. But yeah, the thing is that there were a pretty decent amount of celebrity guests there, like Chase and Aron from Deep Space Nine. The dude that played the original Jason in the Friday the 13th movie. A couple people from Supernatural were also there. And
that's right.
A few other people, I don't remember who, but the promoter was not paying any of the celebrities for their appearances. Like their checks were either bad or they just hadn't received them yet or anything like that. And so Mike and I, on our final day, we were literally chasing the promoter around the entire convention. It took place in this weird little like farm league, like hockey arena, like in between seasons. It was the weirdest thing ever. They put us up in like the grossest hotel in the world. It was so bad. But on the final day, Aron and I teamed up, and I was like, and he was like, hey, Fark, how you doing today? And like, that was the other thing. He always remembered my name, and he met a ton of people. Always remembered my name.
You have a memorable name.
I do have a pretty memorable name.
Max knows your name too.
Max definitely knows my name. That's another story.
Yeah.
But yeah, ran into Aron. He was like, hey, Fark, how you doing? I was like, oh, just got up, had breakfast, trying to figure out how to get paid. And he goes, wait, you haven't been paid either? And I was like, wait, no, are you serious that the celebrities haven't been paid, but the Star Trek band hasn't been paid either? And he was like, no, and everybody is pissed. And he started using some pretty colorful language, and I was like, I'll tell you what, you keep an eye out for him. We'll keep an eye out for him. We'll do a little more legwork since you're probably a little more attached to your booth than we are. And as soon as we find him, we will send him your way. And sure enough, we finally found the guy, and he ended up writing us a post-dated check for our appearance, which I know was nothing near what the celebrities were being paid.
Right.
Like, we were small potatoes, like, money-wise compared to everybody else that was there. But I pointed over at Aron's booth, and I go, that guy is looking for you. And Aron and I locked eyes, and Aron just flips this dude the bird, and then
I love it.
flips the promoter the bird, and as he's still flipping the bird with his other hand, starts doing a come here motion with his other index finger. And it was the funniest thing. And of course, I look over, and Chase Masterson's booth was like right next to his, and she is over there cracking up. It was one of the funniest moments, and that's just a great memory of Aron for me, because I mean, just seeing him on Twitter and on Facebook, and he would interact with everybody. Yeah, and he was always just so gracious, and anybody that wanted to talk Star Trek with him, he would love to talk Star Trek with them. Anybody that wanted to talk sports with him, he'd talk sports. Wanted to talk music, he'd talk music with you. But he always had a hug and a joke And his laugh was just infectious.
Always smiling.
Smiling, and then apparently always cold.
Yeah.
Every single time I saw him, he'd either have on like a flannel or a jacket and fingerless gloves, like fingerless mittens.
My other biggest memory is the first year we were in Vegas, because his booth was right by ours.
Oh, that's right.
And so we kind of talked to him a little bit back and forth throughout the whole weekend from our booth.
I know. I remember leaving our booth a couple times, and we'd ask him to watch our booth while we're gone. You're not doing anything, are you? Can you just keep watch our booth while we're gone?
He's such a nice guy. So so funny.
I love the way you describe it, because his energy is so good on the screen and off. The way he interacts with people, and knowing that the colorful metaphors were being used freely, just makes me love him even more.
Mike and I are members of a Facebook group called Star Trek Shitposting, and it's basically just weird, off the wall, dirty, funny memes that have to do with Star Trek. Sometimes it gets political and things like that. Eventually, Aron joined the group, and people lost their minds. They were like, oh my God, there's an actual Star Trek celebrity in this group right now. So every single time like somebody would make a Nog meme, Aron would immediately get posted. He would either heart react or laugh react or whatever, and sometimes comment. My favorite thing about that group right now is that Aron's last post, he posted a meme himself, and it was a holodeck jizz joke. And it was like, and what's funny is that he was making some joke in the meme about Captain Nog telling Ensign Kim to go into the holodeck and clean up.
That's right. I saw that one.
I was like, could you possibly go out better on the internet than going into a Star Trek group where you're the only Star Trek alum and making a jizz joke?
Only on 5-Year Mission, the podcast.
The podcast.
I was going to bring that up. That's a good segue. His podcast.
Oh yeah.
I had just started listening to it, about a month ago.
Him and Sirach.
Yeah, starting the 7th Rule. I started getting around to it just to kind of see what it was going to be like, and it was really good, interesting, because they got into some of the analysts and the
experts.
Some of the analyzation of the episode I didn't care as much about, but what they would do is tell these stories on set, things that happened to them and directors they dealt with, and who was kind of annoying and who was easy to work with. Some really, really interesting anecdotes. Yeah, some good stuff on there. And again, you can, when you listen to it, and he was kind of running the show on that thing, that you can hear how excited, how passionate he was about the work and the end product and his role in it. It's really cool. Really another just sad thing knowing that that's another thing that's not going to be out there, anymore.
Well, our hearts definitely go out to his whole family, especially Melissa, his wife, and Nicholas and Christopher, his sons. I know it was highly unexpected, and we're all going to miss him. His energy and his sense of humor and just his general love of the fans.
For sure.
It's hard enough when we lose one of like the TOS people. Yeah. But I mean, they're all in their like 80s and 90s, so it's not as much of a shock.
Right.
It's not as surprising as this, and so to lose someone at that young of an age is.
Well, somebody pointed out earlier, it's like everybody was just insanely bummed and sad and depressed when like Leonard Nimoy passed away.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I mean, obviously he was Spock. He was probably the most iconic person to ever appear on Star Trek. And
he is Star Trek.
Leonard Nimoy is Star Trek. I almost said was, but he is Star Trek.
Yeah.
But this was kind of a bigger loss. Like somebody pointed out, it's like, I don't remember people losing their minds this much when Leonard Nimoy died. And I think it's because it was in a way more recent iteration of Star Trek. And plus, Leonard Nimoy, as much as he was beloved, like he didn't get the interaction with the fans that Aron Eisenberg did. Like Aron wasn't like... Aron was well known in the Star Trek universe, but he wasn't on the level of like being mobbed like a Leonard Nimoy or a Shatner or a Mulgrew would be, or anything like that. But
I mean, the guy's booth was next to 5-Year Mission.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah. I mean,
because like with like a lot of the bigger stars, like their interaction with the fans are more like, oh, good, they're glad you could come out. Here's my autograph. Oh, come in here and pose for this picture for like 20 seconds, and then that's it. Yeah. People would come to Aron's booth, someone like Max's booth or Garrett's booth or something along those lines, and you would have conversations. Yeah. You would get to know these people at multiple conventions or after hours in the bars or a restaurant or whatever.
Not just the one time. Like when you come back later that day, they remember you, or when you come back, the next day or at the next convention, even like they remember you because they have these real connections with people rather than these 20-second
quick little hitters. Yeah.
No, not to knock the people who are that popular and they don't have the time to interact that much. I mean, it's not necessarily their fault.
It's excusable and understandable.
Yeah.
That they can't make that kind of time for people. But Aron was just insanely personable and things like that. So in the future, if you are one to attend conventions, if you have a favorite that isn't one of like the more like top tier actors that you see at a booth all day long and they're just interacting with fans, make sure you go up and at least just introduce yourself, tell them you enjoy their work, because you never know like what kind of relationship you're going to be able to form with that person, if at all. But I mean, you just never know. I mean, it's and like Jim said, he regrets not like striking up a conversation or just introducing himself, because you never know when a case like this might come up.
I always thought that I would at some point. I was I didn't catch him this year, I'll do it next year. So it's sad. And one of the things I was thinking about when this news hit and you start reading about it and hearing about it, and obviously, most people that are fans of it understand kind of what he's gone through in his life with his dialysis and being born with one kidney. And then it kind of hits you like, man, a guy lived with this his whole life. Like he was this kind of danger was probably something that from our perspective or my perspective, you would take for granted, but I'm sure he lived with it every day, knowing that he needed to live life to the fullest in a way because of his health and the fact that, this kind of thing could happen at a young age. He's 50 years old. So, which
is why I think he was just still so passionate to the end. I mean, like in the What We Left Behind documentary, just seeing him break down in tears, especially in like that extended interview that
so good
that they released today. Yeah. Like I was at work and I watched that. I was just like, I'll just pop over and watch this. Maybe it'll be like a little lighthearted thing. Nope. He broke down in tears. I started cutting onions right there at my desk.
Same.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I did the same when I watched it. It was great. And the last thing I want to say is just to give him the credit and appreciation for how good the work was.
Especially behind prosthetics.
Nog wasn't that character just because of what was on the page. I mean, he was Nog. He made it an incredible performance, incredible what he brought to it on and off the screen, and his work, should be celebrated because it's so impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
With that, we will wrap up this episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast, episode 2.5. We will be back next week with episode 3. I'd like to thank Mr. Jim Moorhouse. Jim, how can people get in contact with you if they want to get in contact with you?
People can find me on Twitter talking about Star Trek at Enterprise Extra or at TrekRanks. Check out the TrekRanks Podcast, TrekRanks.com. All of your podcast apps. I don't know how to sell it. Does that sound right? Okay.
That sounds
All
right.
Yeah, it's just a show. We talk about Star Trek. That's it.
Yeah, no. We've been on there a few times.
And you know what? Here's another thing. Check out this band 5 Year Mission.
What?
These guys, awesome. Love their music. Not a parody band.
Not a filk
Hardcore
band.
musicians. Not a filk band. But you probably already know that if you made it through episode 2.5 of the 5 Year Mission. No, of 5 Year Mission, the podcast.
There you go. And also right now you can go to StarTrek.com and there are currently 2 articles up about us.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's right.
Those articles were awesome. That guy did a great job.
Yeah, he was fun to talk to, but we are not going to get into that. Go to StarTrek.com, look up 5 Year Mission. There's one called The World's Most Prolific Star Trek Band embarks on their final mission, which, let's clear that up right here on the podcast. It is not our final mission. We are moving on as a band. We are not done. We're just done with TOS.
It's our final TOS album.
Year 5, which, by the way, you guys really should be working on right now. So let's get this over with. So we can...
Patrick already has 2 songs written for it.
Yes!
Maybe 3.
Maybe 3.
All right.
But anyway, we will see you next time on 5 Year Mission, the podcast. Make sure to go over to TrekRanks.com, listen to Jim rank some things about Star Trek. We'll see you guys next time.
You can listen to 5 Year Mission's music on iTunes, Spotify, or any other platform that you like to listen to music on. For more information on 5 Year Mission, visit 5yearmission.net or email us at 5yearmissionband@gmail.com.
Fansets.com is your home for all things Star Trek pin-related, including pin releases from DC, Harry Potter, and Firefly. You're bound to find something you'll like in the nearly 200 pins. Fansets is currently offering a super limited amount of Brent Spiner and Doug Jones autographed pins. These are almost sold out, and these are also not machine replicated, and both come with a certificate of authenticity. Also, brand spanking new this month, new pins featuring Captain Janeway, Luther Sloan, Major Harris, the Mako logo from Enterprise, Travis Mayweather, Commander Nhan, and Michael Burnham. And as an added bonus, listeners can get 15% off their entire order at fansets.com through our special discount code. Simply enter the word NOG at checkout, all caps, N-O-G, NOG, in honor of Mr. Aron Eisenberg. Fansets. We are Star Trek, and we thank Fansets for sponsoring this week's episode.